Thanks for the introduction, Paul, and thanks to Reed Corporate to allow us to tell the Great Western story. All right, to put it bluntly and quite boldly, what we're seeking to do with Great Western is make a once-in-a-decade discovery. There hasn't been a lot of copper-gold discoveries of significant size in the last decade, and that's what we're aiming to do. We've worked really hard to get to this point, and the Tier 1 targets that we're going to be drilling in the next couple of months are really exciting. Disclaimer. Okay, there's several takeaways that I want everyone to take from this about Great Western, and I'll start with the board and management. We've experienced board and management. Our Kevin Soames, he's our chairperson, 50-year industry veteran, chartered accountant. Myself, as managing director, I'm a geologist. I've been in the industry for over 25 years. I started my career with Equigold, Nick Georgetta's Equigold, which is the people that worked in that company have spawned out their own large companies from that time. I was with Newcrest, Evolution Mining from when it first started. Spent many years with them as well. I've basically 50% of my time has been in both mining, geology and exploration. Ross Williams, he was the one of the founders of Macca, one of Australia's largest earth-moving companies that was taken by Teeth. Gray Warburton, there's probably a lot that know this name, mergers and acquisition specialist, really experienced in mine finance. And Tony Walsh, our company secretary. Previously, Tony headed up the ASX listing office in Perth. Now, we're a little bit unusual in the fact that these Tier 1 targets that we're going to be testing in the next couple of months isn't ordinarily found in a junior exploration company's portfolio, and certainly not one with a market cap that you see there on the screen. We put over 70% of our funds directly into the ground. We're all intent on making a discovery, and the way we do that, our board and management are all major shareholders in their own right. Now, non-executive directors don't get paid in any way, not in shares, not in options, not in cash, nothing for their services. Everyone's looking for an upside in the share price, which is good for everyone. We've got a strong cash position. We're funded for our exploration programs coming up, and we've got really supportive cornerstone shareholders. Our top 50, most of them you'll know. They're managing directors, chairpeople of some of Australia's largest companies. We've got one of the largest tenure holdings of any exploration company on the ASX with a deep well of targets, but we're focusing on two targets in the next few months that we're going to be testing. Our Fairburn copper project that Paul alluded to, we're looking for DeGrussa-style deposits there. We're going to be drilling that late this month. And Oval South, we're looking for Winu intrusive-related copper-gold targets. And those of you that don't know Winu, it's in Rio Stable, so it's not talked about, but it is a monster. It's 2.8 million tonnes of copper, 7.8 million ounces of gold as a byproduct, effectively, and open in all directions. They're still drilling it. And we're looking for something very similar. Now, both of these targets are company makers in their own right if we were to hit on something big there. And we've got two of them. So I'm going to start with Fairburn. So Fairburn is remote. It's 950 k's northeast of Perth. Very little work has been completed here, aside from diamond exploration, looking for kimberlites back in the 90s. Now, we completed an airborne electromagnetic survey, and that came up with 8 conductors for testing. Now, most companies would be quite justified going out and drilling each one of these targets, but we put technical rigour into every project that we do. Every project needs to stand on its own two feet, and it has to show us that it's worthy of our time and our funds. So we went out into the desert here, we pulled cables up over the sand dunes, and we completed a fixed loop electromagnetic survey to really hone in on these targets. New Exco processed the data, interpreted the data, and came up with 3 exciting targets that we think are DeGrussa lookalikes. volcanic host of massive sulfide targets. These conductors are shallow, only 80 to 190 metres below surface, and what we're trying to do here is emulate what Sandfire did. Sandfire, before they discovered DeGrussa, their share price was worth cents. After the discovery of DeGrussa, they propelled their share price to a peak of $8.30 and a market cap of $2.7 billion. And that's what we're trying to do here, and this is what we're going to be drilling late this month. Okay, why do we think it's a DeGrussa? That maroon on the top left box there, that's one of the conductors that we've projected to surface. Basically, DeGrussa, or volcanic hosted massive sulfide deposits, VHMSs, they're preserved deep sea seafloors where a volcanic vent has put out sulfides out onto the seafloor, they've settled down, and more importantly, they've been preserved. Now, we knew from geological mapping that this style of target could exist there, and that may explain the conductors. We went up there and mapped, and what we found, not only did we confirm the government mapping and added to it, but that green there, just below the maroon box there, that's a volcanic unit. When we sampled that, came back with anomalous copper and gold, and we think that the conductor, the position at surface is outboard of a volcanic host of massive sulfide system at depth. That's what the conductor is mapping. Now the top right there is a DeGrussa cross-section. That dotted box is where we think we've mapped. We've got a volcanic there, mixed up amongst the sediments, really shouldn't be there. We think we're just outboard of a mineralised system at depth, copper-gold mineralised system. So look, we're going to be drilling this target later on this month. Following on from that, we're going to oval and oval south. And look, this is a very definition of a tier 1 target. And how we got hold of this is an interesting story. So this was oval, which is on the map there in the Urita Basin between Meekatharra and Wiluna. This was first defined by Rio Tinto. They were looking for copper deposits. They were looking for their Winu before they discovered their Winu. They flew a big electromagnetic survey across this area, and oval lit up as a conductive high, and that was their priority 1 target. Now they used a survey technique, which is a little bit outdated now, called Tempest, that models near-surface conductors really well, but as things get deep or within the geological rocks in this area, doesn't define the depth of these things so well. They went and drilled a hole there. They drilled it down to 232 metres with the data that they had, and they hit a siltstone shale unit. And the geologists on the rig, shales can often throw up false anomalies. Using the data they had, quite rightly, terminated the hole and felt like it was tested. This ground lay vacant for a decade until Great Western picked it up about 2010 as part of a really large land package and started doing preliminary work, including a VTEM survey that can better define these conductors at depth. But because of the size of the ground and the work that needed to be done, Great Western entered into a joint venture with Sandfire Resources. They continued on the work, and one of the things they looked at was this VTEM data, and what they saw was that this conductor was actually 70 metres below the Rio Tinto drilled hole. They just missed it. DeGrussa went on to care and maintenance. Sandfire was building a project in Botswana. They picked up Matsa in Spain. They were stretched. They withdrew from Australia exploration completely, and they handed this back to us 100%. No strings attached after spending $4.5 million on it. We're the proud beneficiaries of both Rio and Sandfire's work. So this is a cross-section. You don't have to be a geophysicist to work this one out. This is a cross-section using the later VTEM data. That black drill hole there, that's a Rio Tinto drilled hole. Probably the siltstones and shales are probably mapped in that green there, but that conductor is below that drill hole. They didn't test it, and I can tell you now, if Rio had this data then, they would have drilled it, and we wouldn't have it. We wouldn't be talking to you guys today. But big ore deposits, it's not just one thing. It's nice to have an electromagnetic conductor, but some of the really good work that Sandfire had done was a fairly expensive gravity survey. And what that showed, up the top there is the VTEM anomaly circled, oval and oval south. Down the bottom is the results from that gravity survey. And what that showed up is that there was a perfect gravity high fit with the EM survey. And why that is important? Conductive rocks, shown by the EM, gravity high, so they're dense. We think this is metal-rich sulfide accumulation. Like Winu, there's a magnetic anomaly at depth, which we interpret is a buried intrusive that provides the fluids, the heat for a mineralised system, just the same as Winu. Like Winu, favourable stratigraphy, siltstones, carbonate rocks, sandstones that can capture these metal-rich fluids rising up from this intrusion, strip out the copper and gold to make a deposit. And most importantly, it's on the Ida fault, a known well-endowed fault that's cross-cut by Geoscience Australia, Yerida Basin growth fault. We interpret this as focus of fluids. We interpret that this is the reason why we've got these anomalies there, and there's a potential colossal discovery can be made here. I'm going to play a video that will further illustrate what I'm talking about.
Great Western has a substantial tenure position, all in the Tier 1 jurisdiction of Western Australia. The Oval and Oval South targets are within GTE's 100% owned Yerida North project and located on the prolific Ida Fault that effectively runs the 500-kilometre length of the Yilgarn Craton. The fault has proven metal endowment, with several world-class deposits scattered along its length, such as the Perseverance and Mount Keith nickel deposits, and both the DeGrussa and Monty copper gold deposits, just to name a few. The Ida Fault is interpreted to trend through the vastly underexplored Yerida Basin. Oval and Oval South are positioned on the intersection of the Ida Fault and the interpreted Yerida Basin Growth Fault, which we consider to be a prime location to channel and focus metal-rich mantle fluids from the fertile Ida Fault to be trapped within sedimentary rocks of the Yerida Basin. We have benefited from the work of Rio Tinto and Sandfire Resources. Rio Tinto identified the oval anomaly in the late 1990s by an airborne tempest electromagnetic survey, where the target was defined as a conductive high. A later gravity survey was completed, which defined a coincident gravity high at Oval and Oval South. Here, we have benefited from the work of Sandfire Resources that, in joint venture with us, undertook substantial work refining this target. The gravity highs are a perfect fit with the previously identified electromagnetic anomaly. Great Western interprets that the high chargeable zone identified by the electromagnetic data, combined with the high density material defined by the gravity survey, represents a potentially giant zone of buried copper gold rich sulfide mineralization. Rio Tinto drilled the Tempest anomaly in the early 2000s, with a hole drilled to a depth of 232 metres. The Tempest geophysical survey technique that defined the electromagnetic anomaly in 1990s for drill testing defines near-surface conductors well, but had difficulty defining deeper conductors in resistive sedimentary rocks that are found at Oval and Oval South. Rio Tinto, quite rightly with the Tempest data they had at the time, terminated the drill hole at 232 metres after intersecting interbedded siltstones and shales, with the latter unit having the potential for providing false anomalies. However, the later VTEM electromagnetic surveying that can better define electromagnetic conductors at depth and within the geological units found at Oval defined the conductor at a depth of 300 metres, 70 metres below the Rio Tinto drilled hole. The VTEM survey also mapped the siltstone shale units that Rio Tinto geologists suspected could be providing a false anomaly well, but defined the source of the electromagnetic conductor below this unit. Without the benefit of the VTEM survey data, Rio terminated the drill hole 70 metres before the target zone. We believe that a copper-gold discovery of some scale could be made here, of the style of Rio Tinto's giant Winu copper-gold deposit. Like Winu, a buried magnetic anomaly adjacent and part of a significant interpreted granitoid intrusion has been defined. This buried intrusive, like Winu, is interpreted to be the heat engine and fluid source for a major mineralisation system. Mineralised fluids from this buried intrusive are interpreted to have ascended to favourable stratigraphy of the Yarida Basin. These geological units, like Winu, include sandstone, siltstone and carbonate rocks that have the potential to have stripped copper and gold from the ascending metal-rich fluids and possibly depositing large accumulations of gold and copper within these sedimentary packages. Great Western interprets that a potential colossal discovery can be made at Oval, which we interpret to be an analogue of Rio Tinto's giant Winu intrusive-related copper-gold deposit. Drilling of the electromagnetic conductor below Rio Tinto's previously drilled hole is scheduled for May 2024.
Okay, so look, we've got some really exciting drilling projects coming up in the next few months. Tier 1 targets. Now look, not every discovery is never guaranteed, but if either one of these come in, it's going to be significant. So you've just got to have a little bit of this stock. Come and talk to me. I'm really excited about what we're going to be doing. And look, if you've had a couple of drinks during lunch and you're a bit of a close talker, that's fine as well. I'll talk to you about Great Western all the same. Thank you.